Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Anderson. You see me here on the screen, and so I'm the president and CEO of the museum, and I'm very pleased to be back for another Fellows Talk. This year, we're going to be talking about our exhibition schedule over the next year. Last year, if you were here, and I think a number of you were, which is great to see you back again, we discussed our collection plan and how we collect works. And this is something that's really intimately tied to that, as you'll see as we walk through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through all of the exhibitions that we have scheduled from what's open today through this time next year. So there are a couple of really exciting exhibitions at the end that haven't been announced to the public yet, so you're the first people to know what those exhibitions are, including one true blockbuster that we're opening next summer. So you're going to have to wait a couple of minutes to learn what that particular exhibition is, but it's an extremely exciting exhibition. But we're going to start now with what's on view today. And before we do, I'm just going to say that what we're going to do today is we're going to look at what went into bringing these exhibitions to the museum, why they were chosen, and how these exhibitions combine to create what we think is a complete schedule. So again, as I mentioned, this is in some senses building off of what we talked about last year, which was building the collection. So as a reminder for those of you that were here or those of you that weren't, there are 4 areas that we really focus on in our collection. These are 4 areas of strength that there are opportunities for us to build our collection, to acquire new works through donation and gift with relationships we've created or through museum purchases. And those are American art, modern art, studio glass, and photography and the moving image. So those are the areas at this point that I think our museum is most associated with because of our big collection. So for instance, we have our WGMA modern art collection. We have our Chihuly glass collection. We have a lot of works from our Westheimer collection and some of the other works that are American art from the inception of, really before the country, the colonial period through the present day, Kehinde Wiley and so on. So those are the areas that we've focused on collecting that we continue to build, and that informs which exhibitions we're able to do and which ones we think make sense in our institution. And the other area that we look at when we're selecting particular exhibitions is we want regional exclusives. We want exhibitions that you can only see here, maybe 2 or 3 other spots in the United States. In cases like Painters of Pompeii, that was a true exclusive to the United States. So that's part of our thought process as well. And so this is all contextualized within what we have on view at any given point in our galleries. So right now, we've got a couple of glass exhibitions. There's Chihuly Then and Now on the first floor, which was our reinstallation this past summer of our Chihuly collection, plus a number of works that aren't normally part of our collection. So here you see our glass ceiling, which of course, the Persian ceiling, which is familiar, although we've done it in a new way. But there are also Native American cylinders, which Mr. Chihuly lent specifically for the exhibition, Venetians and other series that we have original for the next 2 years as part of this exhibition, which we hope tells a more comprehensive picture and story of Chihuly's art. We also have our rose glass collection on the lower left, which is a collection that was given to us. We announced that again last year as part of this event, and we have that on view today on the second floor, and then of course we have our permanent collection galleries. So what we're going to start with today is an exhibition that we organize exclusively at the museum, and I'm just going to jump right ahead here to how we did it. And it's Kiarostami Beyond the Frame. Actually, I'll just tell you a little bit first. It's open through April 9th, so there's lots of opportunities to see it. If you have time after this event today, if you haven't seen it, I would strongly encourage you to see the exhibition. I'm going to do my best to sell it during this presentation, so I hope you want to see it. It's the first major exhibition by the artist in the United States since 2016, and it was organized in partnership with the Kiarostami Foundation. And I'm going to show you how easy it is sometimes to put together these exhibitions. And as a point of reference, Kiarostami's last major exhibition before ours was in Paris at the Centre Pompidou, the largest modern art museum in Europe. His last major exhibition in the United States was in MoMA, which is the largest modern art museum in the United States. So again, this is how easy it is to put these together sometime. What I did is I messaged his son, who's the president of the Kiarostami Foundation, on Twitter. And I said, we would like to do a Kiarostami exhibition. Are you interested? And he responded, yes, I'm interested. And we did that about 3 years ago. And in the 3 years since, I'm going to talk through how we actually came up with the particular exhibition, but it really was that easy, just reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, we're interested, are you interested? And as you can see, he was interested as well. So I'm going to go through how this actually did develop over time. The first thing I should mention is this exhibition was actually something we were going to open a year earlier, but we delayed it by a year because of COVID. And that was more, our exhibition schedule started to change a little bit during COVID for obvious logistical reasons. Not really because of this exhibition, but other ones ended up delaying it. And we did exhibitions that were, during COVID, during 2020 in particular, very low cost to make sure that we were sustainable during that period when we really didn't know what COVID would, how that would develop. So we pushed this one off a little bit, and it actually gave us time to put together, I think, a very strong and successful exhibition. And what you see here is kind of the genesis and why we wanted to do it. So Kiarostami is best known internationally as a film director. And so part of the exhibition we knew would actually occur in this theater. So when we were thinking about why we in particular would do this exhibition, we thought we have this wonderful theater, historical theater, we can do a big film series as part of an exhibition. That's something that makes us a little bit different and a little bit special as an institution. So that was part of the exhibition, and the other part would be what would happen in the galleries. And so for us, from the very beginning, this was an exhibition that was not just what you see on the third floor, but also what you see in what we're doing every Thursday night as part of the exhibition. So actually, if you don't know, for this exhibition, we actually are showing films free, so you're all fellow members. You get in free to the, of course, to the galleries, but also every Thursday night we're doing screenings which are free to you as well as part of this exhibition. So any of our members get in free, because it is part of the exhibition. It's not an additional film screening. So as you see here on the left, he is I guess you maybe see it, maybe not. That big image in the center is actually a film. Those are photographs on either side of that film, and those photographs actually are the photographs that he edited together to create the film. So we're kind of telling how this art really came about and how it kind of combined. So this just gives you a sense of, okay, this is an exhibition that consists of film, photography, and what's happening in the theater, and that's what we knew from the start. What we didn't know is which particular works would go in the exhibition until we started working with his son. So, and that's Ahmed Kiarostami, the president of the Kiarostami Foundation. The work on the two works here on the right are from a series called Regardez-moi, which is Look at Me. This is a series of photographs that his father took over the course of about 15 years, mostly at the Louvre, but in other places like MoMA and other major art museums around the world. He was granted incredible access to the Louvre over about a 15-year period. And part of the finished series actually ended up showing in Tehran in a Louvre in Tehran exhibition before his death in 2016, but only a portion of these works. So this is a series that in its totality has never been shown anywhere, and this, for his son, our exhibition was an opportunity to show this for the first time in a museum. So for us, this was a great opportunity because we're going to be able to show this large photography series by a person that we think is a major 20th century figure, major 20th century, 21st century artist, and it also provides, as you see here, types of works that we don't have a lot in our collection. So this is the Regardez-moi series is really a survey of Western art from the Renaissance to the Post-Impressionism, basically. And in each of these, you have somebody who's looking at the artwork. And what's really unique about these, and so it's the sense that it's not just people, it's not just photos of other artworks. What's really unique about these is you have people in each one that have some visual relationship to the photo that they're looking at. So you really see that, I think, nicely in that Van Gogh photo on top. And you have, of course, her hair, that has that same color, the same texture as the straw. So there's that visual correspondence. And what's really great about this photography series is that it asks you for each of the photographs that you're looking at, and there's 50 of these, to find the relationship and to find the detail in the original. So it really makes you look at the originals in each case, which is a really wonderful contribution to, it's really something that adds to what he's doing. And so this is a series we were very excited about, and we built the exhibition around these 50 photographs, which are on view in two large galleries on the third floor. The work that we really wanted in relationship to that is the work on the left, and that's Shirin. And what Shirin is a really, really interesting film that we didn't know how it was made until we started working with his son. What it is you see for the course of 90 minutes, and it's a work in the exhibition that you can kind of enter and exit at any point. You could watch the whole thing, but you don't have to. And it's a series of women, all in headscarves, so they're all in an Iranian theater, watching a movie that you don't see. You see the reflections of the movie, you hear the soundtrack the whole time, and the name of the film that they're watching is Khosrow in the Shadow, which is the Iranian Romeo and Juliet. So you're seeing this through their eyes, you're hearing and watching them watch this very melodramatic, romantic poem, epic poem, which, if you start to think about it, there's a lot of violence in it, there's some sex, there's a lot of adult content, and so you see, okay, this is not something that you could show in theaters in Iran, but you're watching these women watch the film. Well, so as part of our installation, his son recommended that we also show the making of documentary. And what the making of documentary reveals, and this is why this was great working with somebody with this kind of knowledge about it, because we didn't know this. He actually shot these women reacting before there was any soundtrack. They're watching a film that doesn't actually exist. So he's directing each of these actresses to respond in different ways, cut together those responses to create a 90-minute film, then built a soundtrack around those responses for this film that doesn't actually exist. And it's an incredible, incredible feat of authorial and artistic skill, and it's really mind-blowing. And in the exhibition, you get to see the documentary making of where you see this, and then you see the finished result. And for us, these two related to each other, because in both cases, these are works about people looking at or watching artworks. So that was this kind of basis for the exhibition, and from there, what we did is we started to expand the checklist. So when Ahmed Kiarostami came here in April, he didn't really know what to expect in Oklahoma. What he told us all along is the reason he wanted to do this exhibition here, and some of you heard this perhaps at the Sustainers opening when he talked, was he could do an exhibition at the Centre Pompidou, and there's a lot of people in Paris who know his father's work, but obviously there are fewer in the middle of the country. So he wanted to do an exhibition where this art was fresh and new to the visitor. That was kind of his objective for doing something in Oklahoma. And so he came, he didn't really know what to expect when he saw this museum, and when he did, he just started adding things to the checklist. So here on the left, you see Doors Without Keys. This is another photography series that his father did before his death. It's only been exhibited once, and that was in 2015, so this is only the second time this is showing anywhere. And here what you see are a number of photos of doors, you hear a soundtrack, and of course you start to think this is about censorship, because again, there's something that exists here with the soundtrack that you're hearing, but you don't get to see it. There's all these little worlds through these doors that you're kind of foreclosed from ever seeing, and so as you're starting to move through the exhibition, you're starting to get a sense of somebody who's working around the restrictions of working in Iran, where there are lots of things that you can't show, but there are all of these realities that exist in Iran, and he wants to do this through these kind of poetic dimensions. And so with this particular series, you see on the very left part of the screen, you may be able to work out that there's some words. That's actually the Persian and English translation of poems. His father was also a published poet in 14 languages. So that's something, again, that by working with the artist's son, we were able to add those details for the exhibition. The one on the right is something that we at the museum asked for from the start, and then over time he thought, yeah, it's a good idea to have. And this is actually Sleepers, which is a video work that 21C Museum Hotels happens to own by Kiarostami. They have a really wonderful collection of art, and this is something that was commissioned for the Venice Biennial. It's a projection of two people sleeping on the floor. It's a variation on an very famous Andy Warhol experimental film, Sleep, which is 5 hours of somebody projected on the wall. Here they're on the floor, and the difference, again, with Kiarostami is there's a soundtrack. Warhol's is silent. Kiarostami's, you hear what's happening in the street outside of this bedroom. So again, there's a sense of this world you don't see. So you can see that we had this concept for the exhibition, and by working with his son, we were able to build the concept through these works that related in some sense to the concept. Then I just want to point out a couple of things here. In conclusion, just to give you a sense of the kind of final touches on this exhibition. Kiarostami was also, among other things, a graphic artist who illustrated children's books. In 1969, he illustrated this children's book here, and originally we thought we were either going to have the book or we were going to be able to do some sort of illustration in a case. Ultimately, all of these works really only exist on a computer drive at this point, so what we did, again in relationship with his father, is we produced Ernesto Sanchez, our exhibition designer, came up with this great idea for this frieze that goes around the top of the gallery. One of our former curators, Roja Najafi, she's Iranian. She lives in Phoenix now with her husband. She actually did the translation for us. So there's a QR code. You can scan it, get the translation of this particular work, and it really does enhance and gives this really kind of fun sense of his, the variety of his artwork. Actually, on the right, you see the kind of completed version of it up top, and then there is one of his children's films. He made children's films before moving into feature films, so we have that as part of the gallery. And then there's this, I wanted to get the monitor on the lower left, and about a week before the exhibition, Ahmed wrote to us. I should mention there were two curators on the exhibition, myself, and then Dr. Lisa Brada, who's our head of film programming, who really did most of these specific selections. So if you see the specific doors in the galleries, she's the one that chose those. I worked more at the beginning, and then we both kind of collaborated to kind of put this together with our exhibition designer, who again did a fantastic job on this. Well, the work on the lower left, it's called Where's the Friend? It's a video that I didn't know existed, Lisa didn't know existed. There's a website, IMDb, that's purportedly every movie, it's recorded on IMDb. It's not on IMDb. And Ahmed said, well, I've got a surprise film. My father made this film. Nobody knows about it. Would you like to have it as part of the exhibition? Well, of course we would like it as part of the exhibition. So we actually, if you walk through there's a monitor on the first floor and a monitor on the second floor that are playing videos. That's because at the last minute we had to move things around to accommodate the surprise film, which again we think is a really great little surprise in this exhibition. So this all happened thanks to a single message and somebody in Ahmed Kiarostami who was really excited to put together this exhibition that I think puts his father's art in its really kind of fun and pedagogical dimension. And here are a couple of close-ups of these last-minute additions. So for us, this is an opportunity to introduce one of the most important artists in any medium at the turn of the 21st century. So, as a program, as a museum, we think of what we're doing in terms of our mission, in terms of what we're presenting, both what we're doing in the galleries and what we're doing in the theater. And so for us, this is a place where those two worlds converge in a really interesting way, and you get a sense of how theatrical cinema and how video installations and some of these other art forms, how important they were and how they related to each other. So this was something that we thought could bring the two big pillars of our mission together in terms of what we present. It was an opportunity to explore a part of the world that not a lot of people know about. And what I would say is, obviously, there's right now the protests are occurring in Iran, and when you're doing an exhibition about Iran and you don't know exactly what the world's going to be like when you open it, you always kind of have in the back of your mind that, well, you ask yourself, should we do this? Is this important? We thought yes. I mean, you get a sense of how, his films are about the other Iran that doesn't normally get to be seen. And of course, he obviously dealt with censorship and ended up finishing his career outside of Iran. So we're putting together some programming with OSU and OU later in the exhibition to talk about contemporary Iran. But it was important for us to move forward with it regardless of what the world looked like when we would open the exhibition. And then, again, this is the connection between these two art forms. So that's really why we did this. And, we're in a really unique position because of this theater, because of the history of the film program, to do these exhibitions that really do tie both of these art forms together. And we're very grateful, again, for our partnerships on this. And, really, this was an incredible team effort to do honestly, everybody really kind of brought their A game on this. This is something that really came off to a pretty remarkable level. So now I'm going to be moving to our upcoming exhibitions, starting with one that we have announced. You may know about these, but I'm going to explain a little bit about how these came about. why we're doing these exhibitions. And those are two exhibitions that we're opening in February, Art and Activism and Fighters for Freedom, William H. Johnson's Picturing Justice. These are two exhibitions that bring together themes of they bring together African American art and themes of modern art, or they think of how African American art relates to and was inspired by modern art. And if you think back to, again, these areas of our collection, two areas that we really focus on are American art and modern art. And that's, again, because this museum was, we're very, very fortunate to be the repository of the Washington Gallery of Modern Art collection, which was the first major modern art collection in Washington, D.C. That came here in 1968. And so it does create, essentially, it has become a very large part of our identity. And one of the artists that collection doesn't have, and we've wanted to add to our collection over the years, but just honestly, prices for our works have made it impossible, is the piece that you see in the lower left here, and that's a work by Alma Thomas. She was a Washington color painter who, in all likelihood, because of her gender, because of her race, wasn't really acknowledged as a Washington color painter at that time in the 1960s, but who has since gained an enormous reputation and has become a key figure in any story of modern art in the second half of the 20th century. We've wanted to exhibit works by her for a long time, and the opportunities, we've never been able to buy a piece again because, modern art, as everybody here knows, is extremely expensive, and it's really cost prohibitive to purchase it. And you kind of need to find these relationships to even add those areas to your collection. And so this was an exhibition in art and activism that included a major work by Alma Thomas and a number of other major works by African American artists that we don't have in our collection, but that in some sense enhance the story that we can tell. So there are works by Jacob Lawrence, Romare Bearden, and others. But what makes the art and activism exhibition truly remarkable for us is that it positions those works, those artists, within a larger current of 20th century modernism. So the exhibition also has works on paper by people like Picasso, Picabia, Matisse. And so it gives a sense of how these later works by African American artists relate to and created these new currents in modern art in the 20th century. And for us, that's a story that we can't tell with our collection. We don't have, again, pieces by those artists, but we think it's a very important story to tell because of the artwork that we have and because of our focus on the 20th century. So this was a really great opportunity for us, and it also came in early 2021. And if you think back to 2020, of course, you had the George Floyd murder and protests, and so a lot of museums at that point were thinking very intently about how they can better represent African American art and artists in their museum. And for us, we knew we couldn't buy pieces to do that. We've done that over the past few years. Of course, we bought the Kehinde Wiley just a few years ago. But we thought an exhibition would be something that we could do that would really highlight the importance of African American artists, especially in this story of modernism. This was an AFA, which is American Federation of the Arts, exhibition. We work with them pretty consistently over the years. And so it was an exhibition that they proposed to us, so that's how that came about. It's something, we've worked with them actually, I think AFA since the 1930s. This museum has only existed in its current-ish form since 1945. So even the experimental art gallery that preceded us was working with AFA. So that's how long that relationship is. So for us, this was an exhibition that came at an opportune moment, and again, we've been trying to buy work by Alma Thomas in particular for a long time, and so this is an exhibition that made sense, I think, for us to do in particular. It's a small exhibition that's going to be exhibited concurrently with this really wonderful exhibition, William H. Johnson. It's actually Fighters for Freedom, William H. Johnson Picturing Justice. And it's a series of, it's 20 or so, I don't remember the exact number, but 20 or so paintings like you see here that he made in the mid-1940s that represented figures that were associated with either African American history, especially the Civil War and the Reconstruction period, or also figures of the 20th century who were in some way, in related figures. So here actually you have Frederick Douglass with John Brown and Abraham Lincoln, so figures that of course all related to the Civil War in some sense. or there were also figures from the 20th century who were advocating for peace. And this was made, he was actually married to a Danish woman who had of Jewish descent, who her family, there, of course, obviously with the rise of Nazism, he and his wife were very concerned. They left Europe. He was living in Europe in the 1930s, and they moved to the United States. And so it's about really both the history of the African-American experience in the United States, but also about the mid-20th century and Nazism and the hope for peace at that particular period. It was as he painted these in the mid-1940s, his wife actually she died, I believe, of breast cancer in 45, 46, so right when he was painting these. He really went through one struggle after another. He lost most of the works that he created before this in his studio fire. It was I shouldn't say most, but a number. Actually, the Smithsonian has 1,000 works by him. But it was a really, really terrible period in his life. And actually, after this, really this kind of ended his artistic career. But it's this wonderful late example. And again, what it does is it provides this sort of interface between European modernism and African-American experience in art. And you get the sense of how that happened in terms of the themes, but even visually. So he and his wife lived in Scandinavia. So he became really interested in Scandinavian folk art. And so that's what you see in this particular design and kind of the visual strategy. He spent a lot of time in France. He was adopted and accepted as a key modernist in France in the 1920s and 30s. So he's somebody that was born in the United States, but really developed his art in Europe, kind of came up with this visual strategy and then applied that to these African-American themes. So that's, again, how this exhibition relates to the other one. Both of them are really the interface between European modernism and African-American experience. So we thought we could present those at the same time this spring, and we're, again, very fortunate. This was the Smithsonian, or sorry, not a Smithsonian, well, yes, this was the Smithsonian. Excuse me, I was thinking of, we'll get to it in a second. This is a Smithsonian exhibition. We worked with Art Bridges to bring this one to Oklahoma City. Here, again, are some of the other works. There's a painting of Harriet Tubman on the top, Romare Bearden on the bottom, and we're doing a lot of work with the Smithsonian and with Art Bridges in particular to do some special interpretive work for this exhibition. So we're doing a pilot program for classes in Oklahoma City for William H. Johnson. We're also doing some low vision labels. So there are labels where you'll be able to feel essentially a reproduction of the work tactily, which will be extremely interesting. It's an opportunity because of the partners that we have for the exhibition. And once again, this was Art Bridges is the really kind of key group. That's Alice Walton's foundation. We worked with them on this exhibition. So we went out, found this exhibition, worked with Art Bridges, and what happened because of that is we developed a relationship, and Art Bridges recommended us for the next exhibition. So exhibitions really, as you start to see, are all about relationships. AFA, again, we've been working with them since the 30s. Art Bridges, we just started working with them, but they were, I guess, pleased with what we were doing on this exhibition, so they recommended us for this. True Nature, Rodin and the Age of Impressionism, which will be opening next summer. LACMA is the biggest museum, if you don't know, in the Western United States. They have an incredible collection of Rodin sculptures. They're actually currently undergoing a renovation, which is allowing them to tour this exhibition. And what happened, because of COVID, they had a venue in Macau that fell through for this exhibition. So they were looking kind of last minute for, we need somewhere to send this exhibition. Art Bridges, they were working with Art Bridges. Art Bridges said, why don't you talk to Oklahoma City? What we did is we ended up moving one of our exhibitions a year in advance, so we were able to accommodate this. And because of this, we're going to be able to do an exhibition that features Rodin is the most important sculptor from the Baroque period until the 20th century. There's no artist, I don't know if there's another medium in which there's an artist who dominated their medium quite like Rodin did in the 19th century. So here you see one of his sculptures, from the Burghers of Calais series. On the right, you see his first major commission, that's St. John the Baptist. And then above, there's a work by Cézanne. There are also Impressionist works that are included. They're LACMA Impressionist paintings that are included to contextualize and help us understand why Rodin is such an important sculptor. There are over 50 Rodins in this exhibition, over 100 works total. I'm just going to walk you through a little bit here in terms of the series. So we've got his very famous Gates of Hell commission, which is the commission, if you think of the thinker, that's that particular sculpture is part of that commission. We have a number of works from the Gates of Hell series, different models. Here you see the Crouching Woman that's part of that series. Here's, again, the Burghers of Calais, which was one of his big, most epic commissions that he had with multiple figures. We also have one of his most famous sculptures will be part of this exhibition. We have his monument to Honoré de Balzac, which you see here on the left. That's included with the very famous Steichen photograph of the sculpture. And then we have Bodies in Motion, which is, here we have Iris Messenger of the Gods. So this exhibition highlights themes like that latter theme where you have, it goes through the different series, but then it highlights different themes in his work. So you see how movement was particularly important to his sculpture. And that's, I hope, starts to give you a sense of how it's contextualized within Impressionism, too. With Impressionism, you've got this fleeting moment in time, this particular impression or kind of sensation of light at a particular time. So it's very much about a specific time. And that's the same sense that you'll get with this exhibition with Rodin. So you'll get a sense of how they're both kind of coming out of the same intellectual current in the 19th century, but doing what's on some surface very different things, because of course there's not a lot of color in sculpture, but in another sense there's this strong relationship. So this is one of those exhibitions that for us, it doesn't really relate. I mean, we wish this related to our collection. We wish we had a lot of Rodins or great 19th or 20th century sculptures. We don't. And because of that, what we do, well, not because of that, but as a result, we thought this is an exhibition we can bring here that provides access to this incredible collection and incredible artists that you wouldn't get a chance to see otherwise in Oklahoma City. And so this is one of those. So like I said, we like to do exhibitions that relate to our collection, but we also like to do regional exclusives that, again, provide this once-in-a-lifetime access. And this is the only time that they'll tour their Rodin collection because of their renovation. It also does include major works of Impressionism painting. Here you see a great Monet. There are a series of Monets as part of this exhibition. So it surveys and contextualizes Rodin's art within the history of Impressionism. It's going to be laid out in those sections where it's the different commissions like Gates of Hell, like the Burghers of Calais, but then these also themes like movement, so you get a sense of what he's doing conceptually. Again, it includes a number of other artists, Monet, Degas, Cézanne, Renoir, and so on. So it's a number of key figures of the 19th century. And it just adds this really rare opportunity to see something that we wouldn't otherwise be able to show here in Oklahoma. So then the final exhibition that we're going to be looking at, and I'm going to play a 6-minute video that will give the artist talking about this exhibition rather than me, so he does a much better job than I do. It's Preston Singletary, Raven in the Box of Daylight. Preston Singletary is a Klingit artist from the Pacific Northwest who actually used to work with Dale Chihuly, so you see immediately what the connection here is to our particular collection. There's also a great connection to Oklahoma. The work in the upper right is actually the stained glass in the Episcopal Church here downtown. He was commissioned to do that stained glass here in Oklahoma City, so he has a relationship to the city. And what we have here is a story about this wonderful creation myth that's a very strong narrative exhibition. So it combines glass, it combines the moving image, it combines sound, and additional art forms for this very immersive experience. This will be on the 3rd floor. All the exhibitions, so the Kiarostami exhibition is currently on the 3rd floor. Rodin will be on the 3rd floor. Preston Singletary will be on the 3rd floor next November. So this opens a year from now. This will also be on view for a long time. It was organized by the Museum of Glass in Tacoma, and our relationship there is not just the Chihuly. We actually went there on a museum visit when we were planning the reinstallation of Chihuly a couple years ago, we met with the people at Tacoma, and then they said, hey, you should take this exhibition. I think this will work with your collection. We're also working on a number of programming, where we're working on a programming relationship with First Americans Museum. So First Americans Museum will eventually have special exhibition space, but they don't have that yet. So what we're able to do is we're able to do the special exhibition here, which, in addition to being an area that we don't collect a lot of Native American art, just because of the Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum historically, but then also now because of First Americans. I mean, there's really no reason for us to compete, certainly in historical work, but of course we do collect in the area of glass. And we're able to do so, and any exhibition here, we're able to contextualize with our Chihuly exhibition. So we'll have this exhibition on view at the same time that Chihuly is still on view. This will be on the 3rd floor, Chihuly on the 1st floor. And this will tell this new story that if we weren't doing that here, I don't think there's another museum that would be able to do that again in Oklahoma. So I'm going to just move ahead here. Here are a few of the other works, but I'm just going to go ahead, and now I'm going to let Preston Singletary talk for his own exhibition.
The story of Raven releasing the daylight is one of the most iconic stories of the Tlingit people of Southeast Alaska. Many people know the basic story, yet there are dozens of Raven stories told throughout the Pacific Northwest. Each telling is a unique treasure for families, communities, and for all Tlingit people. The story you're about to encounter is taken from 5 Tlingit storytellers woven together for this exhibition. In the exhibition, we will journey together with Raven as he brings light into the world through the sun, moon, and stars. The underlying messages of Raven in the Box of Daylight are not only about light entering the world, but also values of family over possessions, forgiveness, and accountability for one's actions. Tlingit historian and mythologist Walter Porter, my friend and mentor, said it this way: the importance of mythology is that it's universal. Each culture has the same information disguised in a story. I hope you'll recognize some of your own story here. Before here was there, Raven was only named Yeich. He was a white bird, and the world was in darkness. Raven decides that he'll try to do something about the darkness for himself and for the world. He follows the Nass River, where he encounters the fishermen of the night. Fishermen tell Yeich about Nass Shakankawu, the nobleman at the head of the Nass River. The nobleman is wealthy and has a beautiful daughter. He has many treasures in his clan house, including beautifully carved boxes that contain the light. Yeich knows he will not be welcome in the clan house in Raven form. He devises a plan to transform himself into a speck of dirt and float into the drinking ladle of the nobleman's daughter. Her servants test the purity of the water by dipping a feather into the ladle. Yeich, in dirt form, is discovered and thrown away. On his second try, he transforms himself into a hemlock needle and floats into her ladle again. Yeich is ingested by Nass Shakankawu Dusik, daughter of the nobleman at the head of the Nass River, and she becomes pregnant with Yeich. The nobleman's family questions the Immaculate Conception, but ultimately accepts it, and Yeich T'Ukaneyi, baby Raven, is born in human form. Yeich T'Ukaneyi grows into a precocious and precious human boy. Yeich K'atsk-U, Raven Boy, is the beloved son of Nass Shakankawu. The nobleman and his family live in a house filled with wealth. The nobleman spoils the Raven Boy, giving all he asks for. His grandfather cannot deny him anything. 3 carved boxes contain Nass Shakankawu's most prized possessions: the stars, the moon, and the daylight. Raven Boy asks for the boxes and is told he cannot have them. He cries and cries for the box of stars, and eventually his grandfather relents. Nass Shakankawu gives his grandson the box of stars, which he opens immediately. The stars slip through the smoke hole in the clan house and take their place in the sky. Nass Shakankawu is furious with his grandson. He scolds him. Raven Boy becomes inconsolable. His crying breaks his grandfather's heart, so his grandfather gives him the box with the moon. He plays with the moon and releases it. The moon takes its place in the sky. The sun is the final treasure. Even though the boy has been given everything he desires, he tires of being human and decides it's time to leave. Now Shakan Kawu protects his final treasure fiercely, but Yeich eventually succeeds in releasing the daylight. Yeich, or Raven, decides it's time to leave and transforms himself back into bird form. Now Shakan Kawu realizes immediately he's been fooled. He's so angry that he gathers all the pitch in the clan house in a bentwood box and throws it into the fire. He catches Yeich as he's trying to escape out of the smoke hole and holds onto his feet. Raven is covered in soot and smoke from the fire. He's transformed from a white bird to a black bird that we know today. His color marks his sacrifice. His physical form is forever changed for bringing light into the world. As the stars fill the sky and as the moon takes its place, light begins to fill the earth. When the sun takes its place in the sky, bringing daylight to the world, it is frightening to all those who have been in darkness. The people are able to see the world around them for the first time and they're startled. Some of them run off into the woods and become the animal people. Some of them jump into the sky and become the winged people. Some of them jump into the water and become the water people. Those who remain strong and stubborn become the human people, the human beings. Over time, people started to utilize these symbols, these animal symbols, for their crest symbols to represent their families, represent their history, and represent their connection to the natural world.
So that's a way for us to do an immersive exhibition experience, but it's an immersive exhibition that's an artist-created immersive exhibition. And so that's really, for us, that's important, because this is something that the artist has created specifically for museums, for installation and for presentation. So we're really excited to open that one next November. Dr. Rosie May is coordinating that one, as well as our William H. Johnson exhibition this spring. Dr. Bryn Shakmel is coordinating the Art and Activism exhibition, and also Rodin, and she did such a wonderful job. They both did, actually, on the Painters of Pompeii last summer. And then our other curator, Catherine Shoddick, is actually working on an incredible original exhibition, Edith Head, for the following summer. So we've got a wonderful team who are really all working on a diverse series of exhibitions. And I will conclude there for now. Just ask if there are any questions, anything that I can answer today. Yes?
Before the presentation, we were visiting with someone else who is doing fascinating work with flatworms for the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. Mm-hmm. And on a molecular level, when they take these pictures, there would be like very much modern art. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about that aspect, and just so happens the lady Lily, who's in the group, she just came back from a workshop at a place that is very well funded with this fabulous building and fabulous artwork. Mm-hmm. And it is artwork that's based on all these different slides with colored dyes and up close and all that. That would be, I bet they would be very interested in sharing their artwork with the museum.
It's really interesting that you should mention that too, because actually one of the big movie, one of the big movies for this year that played at the Cannes Film Festival is, so most of you probably know that there are, surgery, TV series where they show some surgery. And there's a film that came out this year at Cannes that's actually a very, kind of like you're saying, it almost translates the surgeries into this very artistic, it kind of defamiliarizes everything. So you see The camera will go into the body, and you don't know really what you're looking at. It doesn't tell you, but it almost becomes this incredible artistic, aesthetic experience. So I only say that to say that people are actually doing that right now as modern art. It is something that is actually very current. So that I would say thank you for the suggestion, and it's something that actually is happening right now in art. So it's interesting that there's this other example of that which I wasn't aware. Any other thoughts, questions? Well, if not, thank you all for coming out this morning. I'm very pleased to see such a large number of people after such a huge snowstorm last night. So we all braved the weather this morning. So thank you for coming out. We really do appreciate it. And do go to the third floor to see the exhibition. Thank you.